A family member of mine recently shared this story with me and gave me permission to use it on my channel. Today we hear a story from the small Wisconsin town of Ladysmith. With a population of only around 3,415 people now, but probably only a quarter of that back when this story took place. It was prom night 1979 when said family member and his group of friends rented out a couple rooms at the Rancho Motel. They specifically rented out the rooms in hopes of experiencing paranormal activity because the motel was known to be haunted by a man wearing a red flannel who liked to cause trouble. The group arrived to their rooms and set up for a movie night, eager with anticipation. They rented an armful of scary movies, bought way too much junk food, and stocked up on sugary mellow yellow for an all-night horror fest. First, they decided it would be fun to tell ghost stories of their own, to set the mood for an upcoming horror movie marathon, which was to consist of The Exorcist, Halloween, Amityville Horror, and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Just as Chris was finishing his story, there was a knock on the door. Mary rushed over to open it, thinking it was probably someone late to the party, but there was no one there. "Mary, who is it? Let them in," Chris said. "It's no one," Mary answered. "Quit playing, Mary. Tell them to come in," Ted chimed in. "No, seriously, no one's there, for real," Mary said, flinging the door open. A while later, as The Exorcist was playing, Chris took off to get some more ice for the room. He got to the ice room, put the ice bucket under the dispenser, and pressed the button, but nothing happened. So he tried again. The third time, he added a little force to the button push, and the ice started uncontrollably flowing out. "Great. That's just great," sighed Chris. Later, as they were about 3 movies in, and some of the crew had fallen asleep, Chris, Ted, and Jeff were left awake and decided to go explore the motel to see if they ran into anyone else they knew. Ladysmith was small, so it was one of the very few motels or hotels available, and chances are some of their classmates were in other rooms. Stepping out of the room, they saw a man, probably in his early to mid-30s, wearing a red flannel, looking disheveled. "He looks tipsy," Ted said, rather loudly. "Could you be any louder, Ted?" Chris said. The man honestly looked like he was up to no good, so they decided to follow him down the hallway. About halfway down, the man walked straight into the wall at the end of the hallway. "Holy crap, did you see that?" Ted yelled excitedly. "Yeah, what the?" Chris said. "That did not just happen," Jeff added. The boys were so stunned they went back to their room and sat in silence for quite a few minutes. "There's no way that just happened," Chris said. "I think it's time for us to go to bed. I don't think the night could possibly get any more exciting after that," Ted said. "Not yet. Let's see if we can summon anything on the Ouija board I brought. My older brother said we can use it to talk to the spirits here," Jeff said. My family member who shared this story said they should have just went to bed. And he said to add, never just grab a Ouija board and start messing with it. Do your research before using one. The guys gathered around the board, each one putting 2 fingers on the planchette. Keep in mind, they had no idea what they were doing. They were naive to the spirit world. "Is the spirit here that just walked through the wall?" asked Jeff. The planchette didn't move. "Are any spirits here with us?" Chris added. The planchette began to slowly move and reach the word yes, and the boys all jumped and moved their fingers away. "That was totally one of you guys messing with me," Ted said. "Wasn't me," said Jeff. All eyes were on Chris. "Don't look at me, I was barely paying attention," he said. They grabbed the board and shoved it back in the box, not knowing they had just summoned something far more sinister than the guy in the flannel shirt. Having enough excitement for the evening, the boys all headed to bed. With Chris in one bed, Ted in the other, and Jeff on the rollaway bed the motel provided. The rest of the group were all still asleep in the movie room. Somewhere around 3 a.m., Chris and Jeff shot up in their beds when Ted let out the biggest, loudest scream any of them had ever heard. As their eyes adjusted, they realized what Ted was screaming about. His blanket was slowly being pulled straight off of him. By the time they woke up, the covers had been pulled off of him more than 3/4 of the way. None of them could move for several minutes, but when they did, they grabbed their bags and left, still in the middle of the night, without telling anyone else where they were going. I had never heard this story until the other night when my family member and I were discussing me having a YouTube channel. So if you're listening, which I'm 90% sure you're not, thanks for letting me tell the story, and I told you I wouldn't use your name. If you have a paranormal story to share, please drop it in an email to the address in the description below, or in the comments if it'll fit. Thanks for hanging out with me. Drop a like on the video if you enjoyed today's story, and subscribe if you haven't already. I post daily for now. And with that, see you tomorrow, friends.